Hi and welcome to Ryvis Rambles, where I talk about whatever the f I want. And today it's time for another recap of the media I've consumed in the past 3 months. A little reminder of my rating system can be found in the description below. But to make it short, a low rating doesn't necessarily mean it was bad, it just means it wasn't for me. And with that, let's get into it. Movies. I watched Creation of Gods 2, Paddington in Peru, Legend of Hay 2, Knives Out 3, What Jennifer Did, Die Hard, and Downton Abbey 3. Little update, I also watched The Holiday and rewatched Happiest Season. Creation of Gods 2. Zhang Ziya and Jifa, aided by the Kunlun Immortals, lead Shichi's defense against the Shang Dynasty's dark forces. As the battle intensifies, alliances shift and secrets emerge in the clash of mortals, gods, and monsters. So essentially it's just a big fight. And I kid you not, it's a very long battle with very long scenes, which made it hard to focus sometimes. But the plot around the battle wasn't too shabby. I won't comment on the CGI because I honestly don't expect too much from Chinese productions. I only have to say Yin Zhao's god form is terrible to look at. All in all, I was entertained, so 3 stars. Legend of Hay 2. Faced with a series of mysteries after Wei Xin was framed for a crime, Xiao Hei and his senior sister Liu Ye embark on a new adventure to find the truth. As always, this film is a feast for the eyes. It's filled with pretty imagery and scenery. The art style is so simple yet so cute and charming. Never fails to amaze me. I do have to say, I keep on forgetting that it's set in a modern world, so it always hits me by surprise when they use smartphones. In this movie they even showed office workers, which made me feel so represented. The only thing I didn't like about this movie, which also made me like this movie a bit less than the first one, is that Wuxian and Xiaohei are separated, but I love their dynamic so much, which is one of the main reasons why I love the first movie so much. Nevertheless, I still love this movie as well, so 4 stars. Knives Out 3. Wake Up Dead Man. A baffling death inside a quiet church draws Benoit Blanc into a tense investigation where faith, secrets, and suspicion blur as a close community turns against itself. I honestly love the Knives Out movies, though I have to say this one was the weakest one so far because it was missing its usual charm. However, it still had fun moments. Some of the jokes were a bit too on the nose, and I don't remember if it was the same in the first 2 movies, but in this one I certainly had to roll my eyes a bit more, and some of the characters just seemed very useless or not really relevant for the plot. I also kind of got jump scared by Andrew Scott because I didn't know he was in it, but I always love to see him perform in things. I also really liked the resolution, to be honest. 3 stars. What Jennifer Did. When Jennifer Pan calls 911 to report that her parents have been shot, she becomes the primary focus of the captivating criminal case. I don't know if I'd call it captivating. Don't get me wrong, because what happened was obviously cruel, but was it documentary worthy? I don't know. 3 stars. I rewatched Die Hard, the first one. Just as McClane arrives at the Christmas party of his wife's company, the 2 of them end in a hostage situation. Honestly, the movie was way more fun than I remembered. For some reason, I remembered McClane as this person, but he actually isn't. He's quite the clown and most of the time doesn't know what he's doing, and it was quite relatable, to be honest. But apart from that, the plot, well, I mean, it's an action movie, so the plot is basically just bang bang boom. But the exposition of small details is done subtly and not spoon-fed to you, and even the smallest characters, or well, the supporting cop has a character development. I guess my favorite characters in this movie are the 2 Johnson feds, because they're obviously a couple. 4 stars. Downton Abbey 3. In the summer of 1930, the Crawleys grapple with the threat of social disgrace when Mary finds herself at the center of a public scandal and the family faces financial trouble. It's a grand finale indeed, but at the end of the day, it's just more of the same. It's the same repeating themes we had in the movies and the seasons before, so it was quite underwhelming. However, I am happy that Thomas found his happy ending, and Mary's destiny just makes sense the way it ends. 3 stars. Paddington in Peru. When Paddington discovers his beloved aunt has gone missing from the home for retired bears, he and the Brown family head to the jungles of Peru to find her. What can I say? Paddington movies are always cute. I just have to nitpick one little thing. And I know it's a kids movie, but it still bothered me. And that's if you have a Peruvian, obviously Spanish-speaking family, why do they speak English to each other in an accent instead of just Spanish? Apart from that, this movie was better and more enjoyable than the first 2 for me personally, so it gets 3 stars. The Holiday. Two successful women from different countries swap homes for the holidays to get away from their relationship issues until love finds them anyways. Honestly, it sounds like a horror movie. I honestly would have preferred to watch a movie about the blossoming and manless friendship between Kate Winslet and Cameron Diaz. But alas, the movie was still enjoyable, I guess, and I did prefer the relationship between Kate and Jack over Cameron and Jude. 3 stars. Happiest season. Ready to propose at a family holiday gathering, Andrew runs into a problem when her partner Harper reveals that her family has no idea that they're a couple, or in fact that she's gay. It seems I already watched this movie 2 or 3 years ago, but I forgot. It seemed so familiar, but I didn't remember everything. I don't know if it's a good sign, but it is an entertaining movie. Maybe I was too distracted because I was baking Christmas cookies at the time. It honestly has such an amazing cast, and my favorite scene is the interrogation scene. 3 stars. Shows. I watched Peaky Blinders Season 3, Generation, Monster, the Ed Gein Story, The Studio Season 1, Love is Blind Season 9, Haunted Hotel Season 1, all of Outnumbered, When Life Gives You Tangerines, Naked Attraction Season 1, all of Upload, all of The Grade, and Only Murders in the Building Season 5. Peaky Blinders Season 3. A notorious gang in 1919 Birmingham, England is led by the fierce Tommy Shelby, a crime boss set on moving up in the world no matter the cost. And I will be using the same description for all the seasons because at least so far in every season, it's about Thomas Shelby being the big boss man and his gang doing crime. Although I think they try to stop, but I'm not entirely sure because I kind of stopped following the plot and only keep watching it because of the nice visuals. 2 stars. Generation. High school students explore modern sexuality, testing deeply entrenched beliefs about life, love, and the nature of family in a conservative community. I really enjoyed the show because it's calm. Not to say that there isn't any drama, but it's not that hectic. There's a lot of depth to the characters, and it's got a very interesting storytelling because some scenes are shown from different perspectives so that we know or understand what each of the characters has been doing in that specific scene without everyone being on screen. So sometimes after a scene it picks up by a different character, and due to the audio cues we know exactly where we are in the timeline. Then I wanted to talk about Ariana specifically because she is valid and a very interesting character, but despite everything it was really hard to like her. When I went into this, I actually knew that it was already cancelled, but when I finished it I didn't think that the ending would be that open. I don't necessarily dislike open endings, but I don't like it when they're unintentional because this was obviously supposed to continue, and I'm unsatisfied that it ended with so many open threads. Nevertheless, I did like the characters and I would have loved to see more of them, but it is what it is. 4 stars. Monster, the Ed Gein Story, which is essentially season 3 of the Monster series? Yeah. The Ed Gein Story is the 3rd season of the American biographical crime drama anthology television series Monster. The season focuses on convicted murderer, grave robber, and suspected serial killer Ed Gein. Where do I start? I do like crime stories like any other person, and I am fascinated by true crime, but I do have problems talking about true crime like I would talk about fictional stories, for example, because it is about real people and real victims. But I don't like true crime when it's done bad. For example, when it's sensational, which I think is very disrespectful, or when it glorifies the criminal, which obviously we shouldn't do that. But watching this show, I felt that's exactly what's happening. That this season was glorifying Ed Gein because I caught myself feeling sympathy for the monster, and that felt wrong, to be honest. I mean, I get that they're people and there might be reasons in their past for why they act the way they act, and maybe they might have some traumatic past, but it doesn't change the fact that he killed people, and yet it feels like the show tells me that I should be rooting for him, which felt really weird. But apart from that, there were a few things that I liked. For example, how the real life events were directly put over the horror movies they inspired. Though I have to say I don't know how much of it is real, and I didn't check it, to be honest. And another thing I really wanted to commend was the acting. In my eyes, it was really well done. 3 stars. The Studio Season 1. Mike Ramick is the newly appointed head of Continental Studios. Desperate for celebrity approval, he and his executive team at the movie studio must juggle corporate demands with creative ambitions as they try to keep movies alive and relevant. First of all, it's a good show because it's a real take on how movies are made. I especially love the comparison between media makers and doctors because I can confirm from personal experience that some people in the media branch really act like they're saving lives, or rather that there are lives at stake. 4 stars. Love is Blind Season 9. Singles who want to be loved for who they are rather than what they look like have signed up for a less conventional approach to modern dating. I said it before and I'll say it again. I just watch it because it's a guilty pleasure of mine, but I haven't mentioned it before, so I wanted to mention it now. They call it Love is Blind knowing full well that they only cast hot people. Anyways, 3 stars. Haunted Hotel Season 1. After inheriting After inheriting a hotel from her late brother, a single mom of 2 moves in with his ghost. Don't have much to say about it. I really enjoyed watching it because it was very funny. 4 stars. Outnumbered. A part improvised comedy about a couple bringing up their 3 young children. I didn't know that it was improvised, but you could actually tell, but not in a bad way. I actually stumbled upon it by accident and just randomly decided to give it a watch, and I have to say it was worth it. And you'll never guess who I found. Louis Dupont de Lac. It is funny and I'd say only slightly outdated. Watching this show felt strangely comforting, and I honestly would have loved to watch more. 4 stars. When life gives you tangerines. In Jeju, a spirited girl and a steadfast boy's island story blossoms into a lifelong tale of setbacks and triumphs, proving love endures across time. First thing I noted is that the mom is played by the auntie from The Glory. She was my favorite in The Glory. The second thing I noticed was, why are Koreans always screaming? It was already very jarring in The Glory, and I have to say it's not happening all the time in Life Gives You Tangerines, but it happens to an extent where I noticed. And it was also very jarring. I think it only bothers me because when they scream that much and in that high-pitched voice, it hurts my vocal cords. But anyways, as I said, it's just a small part in this drama. Moving on. The show contains several generations of one family, and it has all the feels. From happy to sad to depressed to a bit more happy again to sad again. I honestly cannot recommend to watch this when you're in a depressed mood or mindset. Overall, it has a very round plot, and I can highly recommend watching it, except when you're sad, as I just mentioned. And I have to say, or if I had to describe it in just one word, it would be bittersweet. 4 stars. Naked Attraction Season 1. Single men and women participate in a dating show wherein their potential love interests' naked bodies are gradually revealed to them. They then must get naked themselves and choose before going on a date to test their initial instincts. As the title of the show suggests, it's a very superficial show. It's honestly the opposite of Love is Blind, but it's kind of fun to watch, and I appreciate that they don't talk about the bodies in an objectifying or bullying way. But my highlight of the show is the moderator. 3 stars. Upload. After his premature death, a man's consciousness is uploaded into a virtual world. As he gets comfortable with his surroundings, questions about his death arise. This show is honestly bingeable and has lots of shipping potential. Most of the characters have a kind of chemistry where you're like, I could see that, and I love the tech ideas of the near future. Overall, it's quite funny and the plot isn't too bad. 3 stars. The Great. A young Catherine the Great comes to Russia to get married to Peter III of Russia, but finds herself embroiled in a world of dogmatic beliefs and customs which she tries to alter. The Great is a satirical dramedy with occasionally modern language in a period setting, which always caught me off guard. It's loosely based on historic events which the show loves to remind you, and even though it's mainly about political scheming, it's done in an intriguing way. I enjoyed it for the most part, but sometimes it felt like work, and I cannot tell you why. I thought about it real hard, but I couldn't pinpoint the reason. I do love the dry and matter-of-fact delivery of some of the wackest shit, and I like the ending and storytelling. 3 stars. Only Murders in the Building Season 5. As in the seasons before, 3 strangers who live in the same New York City apartment building and share an obsession with true crime suddenly find themselves embroiled in a murder. The characters are still lovable and charming, the mystery is still intriguing, and my favorite scene of the season, without spoiling anything, is a falling robot screaming in Oddity. 4 stars. Books. I've read Thrice Married to a Salted Fish Volume 1, Mistakenly Saving the Villain Volume 1, Legend of Exorcism Volume 3, and Aha Volume 10. Thrice Married to a Salted Fish Volume 1. 10 years of exhaustive study and sleepless nights have suddenly been rendered meaningless for aspiring imperial physician Lin Qingyu. In the midst of his education, he's instructed to set everything aside and marry Lu Wencheng, the sickly son of the Marquis, all in the hopes that this union will heal the illness that plagues the young master. Lin Qingyu is unhappy with the situation, so Lu Wencheng proposes an idea to his new male bride, one that will help send Lin Qingyu back home to continue his studies and fulfill his dreams. The first volume covers the first life of the love interest. It honestly took a bit to get into it, but the love interest is very charming and it's worth reading just for him. The plot is I can't really judge it yet because so far there is no real plot, or at least it hasn't really picked up pace yet. 3 stars. Mistakenly Saving the Villain Volume 1. When medical student Song Jingxi dies and wakes up in a historical fantasy novel, he's tasked with rescuing the tragic protagonist from a life of misery. There's just one problem: he has no idea who the protagonist is. Instead of saving the hero, Song Jin-chi accidentally rescues Yu Huan, a villain in need of serious therapy. The premise might sound quite promising, but this was very hard to read because the first few chapters are nothing but exposition. I felt no connection to the main character or the plot. Once again, it was a love interest that made it intriguing, but not enough to save this novel for me. So far, I think the whole transmigration thing could have been left out because it serves no real purpose or it has no impact on the plot. This title-given mistake could have also happened in universe, in my opinion. It has overall a very small cast and it has a few funny moments, so I give it that. 2 stars. Legend of Exorcism Volume 3. With the help of Morgan, Hongjun and Lee Jinglong managed to rouse the Ghost King from his waking dream, only to find out that the one responsible for entrapping the Ghost King is none other than the white deer who Morgan is looking for. When Lu Shu, the scout Morgan rescued, suddenly runs into the snow by himself, Hongjun follows him. During his chase, Hongjun finds himself snared in a nightmare, a vision of his own forgotten past that will upend everything he thought he knew about himself, his parents, and even Lee Jinglong. In this volume, we're back to the humor bits and we get a lot of relationship drama, and I'm here for it. Sometimes I honestly cannot follow the motivation behind some of the characters' actions, but I just accept it. Apart from that, I often find myself wondering what the fuck is happening and how did we end up here. But I just accept it. 3 stars. Arha Volume 10. The opening of the space-time gate of life and death has irrevocably changed and merged the two universes, plunging both realms into chaos. Ta Shen-jun reveals the truth of Huobinan's horrific plan. He intends to defy the gods and lead his persecuted people home to their ancestral lands in the demon realm, even if it means destroying both mortal worlds in the process. And Chuaning alone has power to stand in Huobinan's way. So this volume is basically just chapter after chapter of Shumei dumping his past on Chuaning. I obviously hate what happened to the butterfly bone beauty feasts, but I don't care about Shumei, and it's a lot of information to digest, which kinda takes out the emotions you're supposed to feel. This volume also concludes the main story, and I am a bit torn, to be honest. I like and dislike the revelations at the end. On the one hand, it shows that a lot of planning went into this because there are more than enough signs for one specific plot twist in the entire series, so it has a reread factor. But on the other hand, it had major Gary Stu vibes, and I don't know, it's low-key fascinating, but it didn't blow me away like the Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation. It's also kind of funny that the ending or a certain revelation explains why Moran is so good looking, as if it's humanly impossible to be this pretty. What I did like is that there's a conclusion of every character after the finale. Also, I always pity Chuaning the most, but in this volume specifically, it's Shumong I'm rooting for, my little baby boy. At the end of the volume are a few bonus chapters, which I think is one concluded bonus story, and the next volume seems to only contain extras. What I did like about the bonus story in this volume, however, is that it plays in the modern world where cultivation also exists, and that Shumong is the main character. 3 stars. Anime. I watched Tsueto Tsurugi no Historia Season 1, Togenaki Season 1 Part 2, Spy Family Season 3, Gachi Acta Season 1, and Paranoia Agent. Tsueto Tsurugi no Historia Season 1. A teen without magical powers enrolls in a magic academy. He can't use a wand, but his skills with a sword fuels his drive to keep a promise to a friend. But first of all, I absolutely want to commend the art style, because in my opinion it's very, very beautiful and so pretty to look at, with very minor exceptions maybe, but I don't think it's fair to criticize that. Then I want to mention how much it reminds me of though I doubt it was inspired by it. There are so many parallels. For example, you have a magicless main character with other talents. It plays in a magic school, and there's a magic Wanda, which is basically the same as a divine visionary in Mashal. I mean, even the school hallways look the same. The big difference, however, is how you get points for your house, and that in Mashal you don't have dungeons and creatures. Unfortunately, I have a few things to criticize. Even though it is really pretty and well animated, sometimes they're a bit too over animated in a sense that the characters don't move naturally, but that's just me being nitpicky. Then the characters have, in my opinion, a very one-dimensional style in the sense that they all look pretty much the same in a different color. Like most of the boys have the same hairstyle. And then we have the main character, which is a picture book main character. He's super special, everyone likes or loves him, even the people who don't. Then I don't really understand the purpose of Rusty, except that he's the token gay and handled really badly to boot. I mean, it's only the first season, I don't know if there will be more plot to Rusty, but so far his character seems quite unnecessary in my eyes. But even though the character design might be one-dimensional, it still handles the characters better than Togenaki, for example. Tsueto Tsurugi is just so much better at conveying the emotional scenes, despite the little time we spent with the characters. At the same time, I didn't really care about the plot, and the anime takes itself very serious and believes itself to be very epic when it's not. Or at least it's not as epic as it tries to be. But since I think it's really pretty and the characters were quite easy to connect to, except for Rusty maybe, it gets 3 stars. Togen Anki Season 1 Part 2. The second part is a continuation of Shiki who, after discovering that he has demon ancestry, wants to get revenge for his killed father. Now I already didn't like the first part, but I just can't help but finish the things I started, so here we are. And in the second part, I realized that the plot not only is ass, but also super immature. And apart from that, well, it's still shit, because it literally tells us in the first episode of the second part what's going to happen, leaving no room for emotional shock or anything. We, for example, have this new character, Mikado, who's gay by the way, and I have proof. Leave it to me to find the gay undertones in the straightest shit. But since we know what's going to happen, there's no need to get attached. Literally no spoilers, because it's all been revealed in the first episode of the second part, but Mikado and Shiki are becoming friends, and then they have a fight, and there's lots of drama, and they can't be friends anymore. And I honestly hate how it explains everything that just happened on screen as if we didn't just see it with our own eyeballs. So I'm very obviously not the target audience for this. Nevertheless, it's super frustrating and I cannot stop cringing. 1 star. Or maybe 2 because we have gay Mikado. Am I gonna be biased? No. 1 star. Spy Family Season 3. It's the 3rd season of Lloyd Forger, a spy on an undercover mission enlisting the help of unmarried City Hall clerk Yoro Breyer to act as his wife and adopting the curious 6-year-old orphan Anya as his daughter. His true intention is to gather intelligence on prominent politician Donovan Desmond. To achieve his goal, he enrolls Anya in Eden Academy, where Lloyd hopes she will excel and give him the opportunity to meet Donovan because his son visits the same school. The 3rd season still holds up with the first 2 seasons. In this season, Lloyd's past is revealed and it's unfortunately very, very close to current events. Nevertheless, it's still super funny despite the tragic backstory, and I just love the cute art style. 4 stars. Gachi Acta Season 1. In a floating city where the rich discard the waste and people, Rudo is framed for the death of his father and thrown into the pit where a hellscape of mutated garbage beasts dwell. Rudo aims to battle monsters and the corrupt who cast him into hell. When I saw the trash beasts, the first thought that came into my mind was, what in the Dark Souls hell? I found them quite intimidating and was a bit tense, but in a good way, because this anime has a cool art style, it has baller action, and it focuses on details like cat buttholes. Time really flies while watching this, unlike Tongan Anki. I literally didn't want to stop watching this, and it always caught me off guard when an episode ended because I didn't realize 20 minutes had already passed. I also love the character design because they're very original and unique, and I love the glowing eyes because it felt very seasonal, you know, like Christmas lights. It's overall quite funny, but episode 3 is my favorite because it was the funniest. 5 stars. Paranoia Agent. The infamous shonen butt is terrorizing the residents of Musashino City. 2 detectives try to uncover the identity of this mysterious rollerblading boy who has been assaulting seemingly random citizens. I was really looking forward to this because it's one of Satoshi Kon's works, but I don't think I'm smart enough for this. It's really mindfucky and the mindfuckness just progresses together with the plot. So if you're into mindfucks, this might be your thing, but it really wasn't mine. 2 stars. My favorite Satoshi Kon movie is Tokyo Godfathers, by the way. Manga. I've read something. I've read oct-dec Season 1 and 2, 5で不幸な恋話、やまない不幸を終わらせた方、やまない不幸を終わらせ方, Bloodline Market Volume 3, and Two People Volume 1 to 4. One Room TA. When college student Yun meets the quiet and introverted TA Jin Young, he immediately asks him out, saying he wants to get to know him more. After just 3 days of dating, Jin Young moves in with him, and that's when he starts showing a completely different, wild side. One Room TA is a gag BL, or starts as a gag BL, which turns into an incredibly good and deep story. The story is currently on hiatus, and I think the next season could be the last, but I don't know. I usually hate that I'm actually straight, but I'll make an exception for you trope, because it's a shit trope and by erasure in my opinion. Yet, while One Room TA might fall into this category, it's never explicitly mentioned, or rather, the specific character just comes to terms with who he loves. Later chapters are less about the relationship and more about the past of said character, which explains his behavior or his assumption that he's straight. Nevertheless, no matter how serious it gets, it's always funny. I also love the art style and the random conversations that gave me shower thoughts vibes. Here's an example for the beautiful, beautiful art. This one actually made me gasp. It evolves from funny shower thoughts to deep philosophical conversations. 4 stars. Osanei Fuko na Koibanashi. This manga is a collection of 11 short stories across one volume, including sequels to Gosan no Heart and Owaranai Fuko ni Tsuite no Hanashi, among other stories. I mentioned in at least one other video that I don't usually like those anthologies, but since this one contained bonus stories to already existing one-shots, I was interested. The other stories were also okay. 3 stars. Yamanai Fuko Warasekata. After many years, Udo Takayuki has finally fulfilled his desperate, unrequited love and begun a relationship with Seiji Kiyotake. Now, as a working member of society, his only goal is to protect his love. However, when Udo visits Kiyotake's parents' house, he witnesses the reality of what stands in the way of their love. This is the official and I think also final continuation of Oranai Fuku ni Tsuite no Hanashi, or the story of never-ending unhappiness. The story of never-ending unhappiness is honestly one of my favorite stories by Chisogawa. And honestly, ever since I've read the story, the title of this manga is stuck in my head like a song would be stuck in your head. Because I feel like it could be the title of my life. The story of never-ending unhappiness. I was happy, however, to find the continuation and immediately bought it. And I have to say, even though Udo is plagued by insecurities, I can't help but love him. Also, I prefer the ending of this volume because it ends on a more positive note. I feel the characters, or especially Udo, has more character development in this volume, and if that's the final one, I think it's a good ending. 4 stars. Bloodline Market Volume 3. The battle between an egotistical vampire and a lonely human already reaches its conclusion. The hidden secrets in Moses' past tied to the ambrosia and the truth behind Sotetsu's mother's death, everything is revealed in this final volume. I think I mentioned in my last video that I enjoyed it for the most part. While reading this final volume, I was wondering if they had to tone down the gay, because it's unmistakably there, but not explicitly shown or mentioned. And it kind of really reminded me of the BLC dramas, where you know that they're gay, but they're not allowed to show it because of the censorship. So that was a bit off-putting, but overall I enjoyed it, so 3 stars. 2 People Volume 1 to 4. Yuki desperately wants to be with his crush, but a bet might change it all. Do people like Yuki even deserve true love? Follow Yuki on this bumpy journey to find his special someone. This is my comic, and I finally finished drawing it 1 or 2 months ago, and now that I finished it, I got myself a printed version and of course had to read it. Obviously I'm partial because I made it. I can objectively say that it neither has the best drawings nor the best plot, but it took me 8 years to finish this baby, and I'm proud of it either way. 5 stars. Ongoing, I've been reading Sasamiya, Wet Sand, Jinx, 19 Days, Blue Stray Dogs, Kagurabachi, Ori no Seraph, Moonlight Spring River, Saizuru Tori wa Habatakanai. Why is it so hard? Saizuru Tori wa Habatakanai and Yarichin Butch Club. Games. I played Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney and What Remains of Edith Finch. Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. You play as Phoenix Wright and fight to save innocent clients in a court of law. I bought the trilogy but only played the first part, which contains 5 of the 14 episodes. Or to be precise, I finally played the very first game, and I want to play the others ASAP. It's honestly so fucking funny and it makes you feel so smart. I only needed a little help with the 5th case because I forced myself to play when I was way too tired, thus impatient. And while it makes you feel smart, I also have to be fair and say that it does take you by the hand. A small detail I noticed, which I kind of feel indifferent about but have to mention because I noticed it. The son of the text boxes has different pictures depending on whether it's a male or female character. Fun fact. Needless to say, I love all the characters and I love the animation when you corner or actually expose a culprit. 4 stars. What Remains of Edith Finch. As Edith, you'll explore the colossal Finch house, searching for stories as she explores her family history and tries to figure out why she's the last one in her family left alive. This game is quite dark, and even though it's not a horror game, there were some passages that had me all tense, so much so that it made me actually physically sick. So if you want to play it, there's no need to be afraid. It's not a horror game and there are no jump scares. I love the creative way of storytelling because you play the final moments of each dead family member and each story is told in a different way with varying game mechanics. It's a very short game, and even though I enjoyed it, I don't know why, but I was left a bit disappointed. I think the hype got to me and I expected something even though I don't know what, and since that expectation wasn't met, I can only give it 3 stars. If listening to random people talking about random stuff on the internet appeals to you, leave a like and subscribe. And if you have any topics you'd like to hear me ramble about, leave a suggestion in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching and stay tuned for the next one.